All right, let's just start this video off by looking at current RTX 4090 pricing. On Amazon, there's one for over 4,000, one for over 2,000, and yeah, I guess the best deal is one model that's almost $300 above MSRP, though at least it's a good liquid-cooled model, I guess. Similar story on Newegg, actually. If we look around, most AIBs are demanding over $2,000 for their 4090 SKUs. And again, I'd probably just get the liquid cooled model. I wouldn't save $50 for an inferior cooler. And if we go to Micro Center, we see, yep, only two models. Used to be many more in stock, by the way, at this location here. And now one of them's over $2,000, and the other one is, well, at the low price of $100 above MSRP. And if we go to Best Buy, well, you can't even really get one if you want to. They're all out of stock. And unfortunately, I don't think things are going to get better on the RTX 4090 pricing front until, well, apparently until all the way into Q2 of next year. And I've alluded to this before, but now I can just confidently say that I am directly told by multiple sources that partners are warning decision makers at OEMs and major retailers that RTX 4090 supply won't improve until March or maybe even April of next year. Although, interestingly, the 4080 Super is stated by multiple sources of mine as being a semi-worthy flagship surrogate in the meantime that will need to become a flagship due to 8102 products having as much of their assembly process as possible moved out of mainland China as quickly as possible. In fact, it's not on here, but I am told that although you can still currently assemble 4090s within mainland China, if you're going to sell them outside of China, that's going to change by the end of 2025. And so, well, a lot of AIBs are trying to get ahead of it right now. They see the writing on the wall, and they don't want to risk some new sanction or export ban happening that makes their life even harder in the future. And they've already sold all the 4090s they need to for this quarter, and so they're just taking the next few months to realign their logistics so that this doesn't happen to them again. And so, yeah, that sounds a bit bleak, doesn't it? And I can't help but think that a lot of the people watching this right now are thinking, dang, is this going to be another one of those pessimistic GPU videos? And the answer is actually no. I'm about to leak new comprehensive information on RTX 40 series Super pricing, performance, specs, and release dates that, well, that at least to me seem far more aggressive than what most people were expecting. NVIDIA is taking the situation seriously, but yeah, the start of this video is a little bleak because this just isn't the holiday season to buy an expensive NVIDIA graphics card. It just isn't. Things will get better. I'm actually optimistic about this market next year, but that's next year, not this year. And before I get to the new information, I actually want to set the stage by reconfirming everything that's been leaked by this channel up until now. And I have to start with, well, the live stream from 1 month ago that was one of the first pieces of content out on the internet that doubled down that NVIDIA would be releasing a Super series in early 2024, and also that this was because their sales are bad, like really bad in gaming, especially with the RTX 4080, and that they can't afford to let them stay as down as they are once their Ampere supply dries up. Now, that's important to highlight because, well, the overall thesis was that if NVIDIA is feeling desperate and they need to launch a Super series, why don't you just not buy anything this holiday season so they are even more aggressive than otherwise in Q1 when they launch that series? And it does seem like, from what I'm seeing here, people listened. Then they said, oh, I'm not buying anything in this overpriced market right now above like $700 or $800 from NVIDIA. I'm going to wait, and then that's going to make the Super Series even better. And I'm telling you, it will. Now, a week after that live stream, well, this channel exclusively leaked that the 4090 was getting a price hike, and it was getting one not just because the 4090 was banned in China soon, and so they were gouging from that perspective. It was also because, well, they knew that the Super Series would be coming with much more aggressive pricing early next year, and therefore, well, if they drive up pricing outside of China, that's just going to make the Super Series look even better. And this channel talked about how NVIDIA, weeks before other people were talking about this, was going to be sending their 4090 supply actually through Hong Kong. It was that specific of a video. And it also detailed that the 4080 Super would be using 8103, not 8102. And that's very important for me to highlight here because, well, I can't help but say it. a lot of leakers have basically guessed every single configuration under the sun and are now probably likely to say, well, they already said this. Remember, this is the channel that said that the 4080 Super would use 8103 on the same day everyone else was guessing that it would use 102. I put out that video saying, nope, 103, I'm 100% sure. And so when you see the comprehensive information today, just remember that I'm adding on to information that was also first leaked from this channel. I don't like having to say that, but sometimes I do feel like I need to. And, well, yeah, then a few days after that video, this channel also comprehensively confirmed that it would be the 4080 Super, 4070 Ti Super, and 4070 Super, and that the 4080 Super would be getting 24 gigabit per second memory, which, on that note, I do want to be clear before I talk about why a 4080 Super could be a substantially better gaming card with this super fast 24 gigabit per second memory and more aggressive pricing, that I'm not an NVIDIA fanboy, and if it seems like I'm excited about these new graphics cards, you don't need to remind me in the comments that they're expensive. I know. That's not what this video is about, though. It's about comparing the new Super lineup to the old NVIDIA Lovelace lineup, and it is going to be a lot better. But that doesn't mean that I think any graphics card should cost $1,000, nor does it mean that I think you should only consider buying NVIDIA. So let me also say this. Here's the obligatory part of the video before I get to the meat of it, that yes, I think choosing an AMD graphics card right now would be a decent decision. You don't need to wait for like a $1,000 4080 Super 16 gigabyte. You can get a card that's roughly the same performance and has 50% more RAM, the 7900 XTX, right now for less money than even what the 4080 Super will cost, for $950 or less. Sometimes you can still find them for $900 or even $850. Absolutely, I think that's a solid option right now. And I don't think anyone that buys a $900 7900 XTX with 24 gigabytes of RAM or a 20 gigabyte 7900 XT for $750 is going to regret it next year. But if you are one of those green goblins that will only buy NVIDIA products, then stay tuned because, well, if you're going to limit yourself to only one side, that side's about to do drastic improvements in price performance, and to the point that I do think it will get even some AMD revolutionaries to consider them for themselves as well, and I want to talk about that in the comprehensive leak, but first an ad from a sponsor. This piece of content is brought to you by AliExpress. AliExpress is a feather everyone should have in their online shopping cap for finding competitive pricing on clothing, electronics, and do-it-yourself computer parts, like this brand new RTX 4060 Ventus 2X 8GB overclock. This is a card that really does well as an inclusion in a budget system or perhaps a backup card for a creator like me who doesn't want any backup card to suck a ton of energy while they're going through a stressful situation or require you to rebuild your entire case to fit it into it. It's not what you want to have to deal with if you have a backup card. You just want it to do what it needs to do and do it well enough without sucking a ton of energy. And you also don't want to pay too much for it, though, because it's a backup card. And that's why AliExpress is a good tool to have in your tool set for checking prices. If you just go to one online retailer, then you could be missing out on far better deals on products than you really need to. You should check out AliExpress. And you know, the RTX 4060 does work if it's priced right. It doesn't bring any new levels of performance per se, but it does bring a solid experience with lower power usage than previous generations. And if you want it, you can use the offer codes on screen and the links in the description to support Moore's Law is Dead while you're doing your November or Black Friday or really any holiday shopping this year. Using these codes and links helps the channel a ton, and it's a really great way to show support for the team members of Moore's Law is Dead, while you get something hopefully for a lower price than you realized you could have somewhere else. Again, clicking on the links in the description and using the offer codes on screen helps the channel a ton, and it of course also helps you save extra money this Black Friday season. Check out AliExpress today. All right, let's get right into the RTX 40 series Super Leak, and first off, I need to say that some of this information was already leaked by this channel weeks or even months ago. However, I felt it would be a good idea to finally fully summarize everything that's already been leaked and even the new stuff in one big package so that this can be a comprehensive summary that people can refer to for the next few months. One of the main reasons, by the way, that NVIDIA is preparing a more aggressive pricing structure next year, it's not just about making up for bad sales. I keep hearing that AI is softening right now, and Nvidia is a bit worried that if the AI market were to collapse overnight, that they would have a bunch of cards that got mediocre reviews and they would look kind of clumsy and silly, rapidly slashing prices after one of their markets falls apart. And so a main idea of the Super Series is whether or not they supply a lot of it in Q1, which that's not a volume leak right now. I'll tell you later how much supply I hear they will have. But whether or not they have a lot of volume, they want to have good reviews on the books so that if they do switch allocation from AI to gaming cards, well, gamers have garnered some more respect for them in the meantime and are more likely to purchase quickly. Now, let's get into this. NVIDIA will be releasing, as I've already said, the 4080 Super, the 4070 Ti Super, and the 4070 Super in Q1 of next year. And all of them come with 12 VH power connectors as standard, and will be announced at NVIDIA's CES special address on January 8th. And we'll have staggered releases through January to capitalize on the news cycles, and expect the bulk of the supply to hit between the last half of January and early February in order to try to saturate the market before the Chinese New Year. Basically, NVIDIA is going to announce these three cards at CES, in addition to something else, by the way, I'll get to later. And when they do that, they're then going to, like every week, have a new graphics card get a review, and then they might not have a ton of supply right away, but they will by the first week of February to try to get everything out there before everything shuts down in China. And all right, the first card, the RTX 4080 Super 16GB, is a direct quote from someone at NVIDIA that told me that they want to take on the 7900 XTX head on, and it will use 8103, use the full die, as I've already leaked weeks ago, have a 256-bit bus, 24 gigabit per second memory, and a 320-watt TDP. But I can now confirm directly that it will be a 6 to 9% performance increase over the RTX 4080, and it was emphasized to me that while the TDP is technically the same as the existing 4080, that if we're being honest, the 4080 is really more like a 290-watt card, and they should have no problem boosting higher with these extra cores, which are going to be the best samples of the 4080 die at 320 watts on paper anyways. And here's a bombshell. I am told that this thing should cost $1,000. Now remember, pricing isn't technically final until it's announced. These companies change tact all the time, but it seems incredibly likely that it's going to be $1,000. Nobody says $1,200. Everybody says that they want to hit the 7900 XTX head on, and the only price that I've heard mentioned specifically is $999. No one is mentioning $1,199, and that's pretty exciting. I'm also directly told by multiple sources that NVIDIA has been stockpiling sub-9000 CUDA-Core 8103 yields in high numbers this whole time. And if you actually look around, there aren't any downbins from the 4080 right now. They have been saving all of the 8103 bad yields for a rainy day, whether that be a new AI card or apparently they're going to use them for a new super card. So don't think they can't afford to do this. They have these yields sitting around anyways, and they're going to be able to sell them at this price, I am told directly. Now, then there's the 4070 Ti Super 16GB. Again, direct quote from someone at NVIDIA. This person said that they want to kill the 7900 XT once and for all. It's pretty firm wording there. Again, 8103, 8448 CUDA cores, 256-bit bus, about the same speed or a little slower memory than the 4080 Super. I'm told that decision hasn't been made yet. I'm sorry, than the 4080, not the 4080 Super. And a 285-watt TDP. Now, I'm told that this will have a 14 to 22% performance increase over the 4070 Ti. Depends on the workload, of course. It's getting a major upgrade in bus width from 192-bit to 256-bit. So in any game or application where it's heavily bandwidth constrained, that's where you're going to get that around 20% performance increase. But at a minimum, you're going to see a 14% performance increase as well. If you really think about it too, 285 watts, it's really what the original 4080 consumed anyways. So I think even though we'll have less CUDA cores, it's going to have no problem boosting as high as the original 4080 within that 285-watt TDP. And yep, I am told that it is most likely going to cost $800. And everyone I've spoken to, I don't think it's going to cost $900. They want to undercut the 7900 XT, and I'm told they can directly afford to sell this product for $800 if they want to. And by the way, I do want to emphasize why I think just logically $800 is that magic price to make the 4070 Ti Super look decent. If I pull up a price per frame chart here from Hardware Unboxed, which of course is in the description if you want to check out their video, you can see that the 7900 XT has a cost per frame of $5.39 per frame. And then if we make some room, and I did some math to estimate 4070 Ti pricing, well, you can see that if it was at $800, it actually technically probably wouldn't be that much better pricing than a 7900 XT at $750, which, yeah, I know the MSRP is still technically $900, but I can't help but think that a lot of reviews would say, hey, the 7900 XT is $750 right now. This isn't even really better price performance, and it actually has less RAM. So at a minimum, I think $800 is actually where this product needs to be at to make a big splash at all. Now, the last one, the 4070 Super 12GB, going head-to-head with the 7900 GRE globally, not just in China. It's going to use 8104, 7168 CUDA cores, 192-bit bus, 21 gigabit per second GDDR6X, and a 220-watt TDP. Now, I did the math and asked around, and I had it confirmed from multiple people. It's only going to be 3 to 6% weaker than the 4070 Ti. NVIDIA is de facto bringing the 4070 Ti to a lower price point. And I am. It sounds crazy. I am told they're considering $600, and I don't think they will charge more than $650. Certainly not more than $700, which you might go, well, wait a second. What about the 4070? Well, remember, the 4070 doesn't actually cost less to make than the 4070 Super. If they have the yields, and yields have been improving over time, then it's pretty simple. This costs the same to make, and they will just drop the price on the 47 that already has a decent profit margin. And yeah, I asked and was directly told that it will almost certainly get a price cut to $550 or less, which of course this channel exclusively leaked that the 4070 was going to be sold for $550 a while ago, and it has been. Well, now they're going to make it official, and I think this all makes quite a bit of sense here. You have them correcting the 4080. It's going to be stronger and cost 20% less, or really the 4080 costs 20% more. And then the 4070 Ti Super, yep, that's going to just drop in where the 4070 Ti is right now with a much better product. The 4070 Super might cost a little more than the 4070, certainly more than it currently does, and they're going to drop the price on the 4070, and this is pretty aggressive here. And if this sounds crazy to you, NVIDIA has actually done this before with Turing, and I think a lot of people who would question my information that NVIDIA might get more aggressive than expected with super pricing needs to remember that they were pretty aggressive with Turing super pricing as well. In fact, if we look at TU104, which in many ways is more analogous to AD104 in the segment it occupies in the current lineup, NVIDIA dropped the 2080 Super that took the existing high-end die. At the time it was 104, now it's 103. And they gave it the full die and dropped it for, well, $700, which some people would say was the original price of the 2080. But, you know, it really wasn't, even though that was the launch price. If you look at reviews, the Founders Edition was $800, and AIB models usually cost more than that. But when they launched the 2080 Super, no joke, they just dropped it for the old non-Founders price, meaning that that was a de facto price cut, and they did it because the 2080 was already dropping below the non-Founders MSRP, well, just like the 4080 is currently, giving me a lot of confidence that there's a serious chance NVIDIA is going to drop the 4080 Super for $999. And in fact, going back to Turing, if we look at the 2070, this was a card they tried to sell with a Founders cooler for $600, and then, well, they dropped the Super Series for, again, $500. And it's likely, in my opinion, again, because we can already see the 4070 Ti drifting below MSRP pretty frequently at this point, meaning if they're seeing the 4070 Ti drop close to $750, that means they know something decently stronger than that probably should just have an $800 MSRP if it really wants to make a big difference against the 7900 XT that is currently already selling for close to $750. And so I think it's just common sense for NVIDIA to cement 4070 pricing where it's really already de facto been at for weeks, especially because I'm told at that pricing, $550 or less, the 4070 is actually catching up to 7800 XT in sales, or getting there. So if it's working that well with an unofficial price drop, they might as well just drop it there. It's already selling at that price anyways, which, speaking of official price drops, I guess I just want to say one little thing about how I think AMD maybe should respond to the Super Series. Now, to be clear, I have to caveat that if I worked at AMD and I saw data that suggested every single Navi 31 and 32 product we ship this holiday season is going to sell instantly, well then, I might not like this as a gamer, but as an advisor to AMD, I would say, I guess you don't need to sell anything for less than people will pay for it. If people are going to instantly pay $950 for the 7900 XTX in a world where the 4080 is being sold for at least $1,100 most of the time, and often $1,200 or more with 4090 prices going up, then yeah, I can see why AMD might not respond proactively to the Super series. But I have to say this. If I was AMD and I saw sales starting to slow down this November or even into December, I would go, okay, they're slowing down. We know NVIDIA is going to come swinging soon. Let's take this market by storm before they can respond. Because the fact of the matter is that NVIDIA is distracted right now. They're trying to balance supply to AI versus gaming and decide if they need to try to play 4D chess and correct before AI softens. And then they're dealing with export controls and moving logistics around Asia. They're distracted. I don't think they could respond quickly, or that they would be likely to respond very quickly if AMD really went for this holiday season. And well, this doesn't happen very often, does it? Usually, NVIDIA does something and then AMD responds. And so, look, again, if the graphics cards AMD is shipping this holiday season, if they're sure they're going to sell at the current pricing they're at instantly, then I guess it would be dumb for them to drop prices early. But if they're not, man, dropping the 7900 XTX to $900, the 7900 XT to $750, and honestly the 7700 XT to $400 right now, before the Super Series is announced, I think that might make NVIDIA look silly. I mean, if AMD did this, then when CES comes around and NVIDIA announces a 4080 Super for $1,000 with 16 gigabytes, I think a lot of the press will go, yeah, I don't know, AMD's already been selling a 24 gigabyte card that performs roughly equivalently for $900 already. It's $100 less, 50% more RAM. We don't really care about the 4080 Super, and I think you'd see a lot of reviews say 4080 Super, too little, too late. It's up to you, AMD. You see, NVIDIA doesn't leave openings like this often, and so I guess what I'll close on is saying this. I can't make you take my advice, and I can't promise you that it's 100% necessary to do immediately, but what I can promise you is what you're seeing on screen. This is what NVIDIA is going to have in a couple of months, and it's your move to decide if you want to make that look silly or if you just want to let Jensen take the initiative yet again. And that's going to do it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did enjoy it, please remember to hit the like button, to share it, and to double check that you're subscribed to the Moore's Law is Dead YouTube channel, and ring the bell button so you don't miss all of that other upcoming content that's coming as well. We're having Techia City on again very soon, and actually if you join the Patreon, you can ask him questions for free at just $2 a month. Actually, you can ask us questions and get access to Die Shrink, which is premium, often over 1 hour long videos and deep dives. We just did one on what caused and killed the PC gaming renaissance, and for just $2 a month you can get access to that and hundreds of other pieces of exclusive content that don't have any ads. Higher tiers get you ad-free Broken Silicon early and the ability to ask reader mail questions and free questions on loose ends. We really can't do this without our patrons, and really the number one way to show support for Moore's Law is Dead is just to join the Patreon, so we don't need to worry about where the money will come from when we try to hire more people. We just know that we don't even need to do ads. We can just make this for you. That's what the Patreon is for. And, well, I guess no matter what, though, if you made it this far, thank you for watching.